Mornings in our house used to be warm. Soft sunlight slipping through the curtains, the smell of chai, Sarah humming as she got ready for work. For 6 years, we fit into a rhythm that felt almost rehearsed, predictable, yes, but comforting. But that morning was different. Sarah moved through the kitchen like she was walking on fragile glass, careful, avoiding me. Her smile was thin, her eyes tired, almost guilty. She poured herself coffee. She never drank coffee in the morning, and checked her phone 3 times in 30 seconds. I watched silently, pretending to scroll through emails. I already knew. Intuition never shouts, it whispers, it nudges, it lets you notice what you weren't meant to notice. The late-night messages she tried to hide, the sudden enthusiasm for work events she previously hated, the new dresses she bought, claiming they were on sale, but never worn at home. The phone flipped face down every time. She stood by the door, adjusting her earrings, catching her reflection in the mirror. "Big day?" I asked gently. She froze for a moment, just a fraction before answering. "Oh yes, presentation." Her tone was too fast, too rehearsed. She opened her purse, closed it, opened it again. "You okay?" I asked. Yeah, just nervous." She forced a laugh. "We used to talk. Real talks. The kind where you feel someone leaning not just with their body but with their heart." Now every conversation with her felt like walking through fog. She left the house in a rush, perfume lingering behind. A perfume I had bought her on our anniversary. I stood at the window until she turned the corner and then slowly walked to my study, opened the bottom drawer. Inside was a brown envelope, thick, heavy, almost trembling with truth. Photos, screenshots, a printed timeline. Nothing dramatic, just facts. Cold, quiet truth. 6 years of trust versus 3 weeks of repeated lies. Adil Malik, the man I used to be, would have confronted her instantly. But the version of me standing in this room had learned something important. Some betrayals don't deserve arguments, they deserve clarity, and clarity requires timing. Today, I would give her that. Not with shouting, not with accusations, not with rage, but with silence sharp enough to cut. Today was the day she'd realize the cost of what she'd done. The tension in our home grew slowly over the week. Sarah became more careful, more distant, more strategic in her lies. She started leaving earlier, coming home later, texting in the bathroom, taking calls on the balcony. Yet every night she climbed into bed beside me with a sigh, like she carried guilt she didn't know how to put down. Friday evening, she stepped into the room wearing a navy blue dress, new, classy, more elegant than her usual outfits. Silver heels, straightened hair, a necklace she hadn't worn in years. She looked beautiful, painfully beautiful, but it wasn't for me. She stood at the mirror, applying lipstick with trembling hands. She kept glancing at her phone on the dresser as if expecting it to light up at any moment. "You're dressed up," I said, keeping my voice steady. She froze again, that tiny pause I had started noticing. "Oh yeah, girls' night, remember?" "I don't," I replied calmly. She flinched, caught, but only for a heartbeat. "Oh, sorry, I thought I mentioned it." She picked up her phone. The screen flashed with a notification, and she flipped it face down so fast, she almost dropped it. "You won't be late?" I asked. "Not too late," she said, grabbing her purse. "Just dinner. At an upscale rooftop restaurant. With a co-worker she once said she found annoyingly charming, Imran, the man whose name had started appearing too many times in our conversations. The man who always found a reason to send her a late-night meme. The man who leaned too close in office photos. She looked at me one last time before leaving, her eyes carrying something I couldn't name. Fear, guilt, hesitation, whatever it wasn't love. When the door closed behind her, the house fell into an unnatural silence. The kind of silence where you can hear your own heartbeat breaking. I sat on the sofa, staring at nothing. 6 years I loved her more than I loved myself. And this was the return. But I didn't cry, didn't break. Instead, I went to the study, took the brown envelope, and slipped it inside my coat pocket. Tonight wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, and truth always finds its way to the table. The restaurant was breathtaking, soft lights suspended like stars, a gentle rooftop breeze, tables set with white linen and tall candles, live violins softly filling the air. It was the kind of place people chose when they wanted memories. I arrived early and requested a secluded corner table, one where I could see the entire area without being seen. At exactly 8:10 p.m., Sarah walked in. My heart didn't break, it simply accepted what it already knew. She smiled when she saw Imran standing to greet her, a smile I hadn't seen in months. He leaned in and kissed her cheek slowly. Certainly, she didn't pull away. The world didn't crumble around me. The sky didn't fall. The music didn't stop. It was quieter, colder, more surgical. I simply watched the truth unfold. Sarah sat gracefully, brushing her hair behind her ear, in a gesture she always did when she was excited or nervous. Imran complimented her dress. She blushed. They ordered drinks, laughed, leaned close like to lovers in the golden beginning of something intoxicating. But that's the problem with beginnings. They blind people to the endings, rushing toward them. I sat quietly, my coat beside me, my envelope inside it, waiting, watching, planning.
Halfway through their dinner, I called the waiter over to my table. He was young, polite, slightly confused by my strange request. I slid the brown envelope across the table. When their dessert arrives, I said calmly, "Place this right in front of her. Don't say anything. Just deliver it." He swallowed hard. "Sir, is everything okay?" I smiled. A sad, tired smile. "Yes, everything is exactly as it should be." He took the envelope with a nervous nod. I watched as he walked toward the kitchen, the envelope held carefully like it contained a bomb. He wasn't wrong. Time slowed as I watched them. Sarah laughed too loudly at Imran's joke. He reached across the table and held her hand. She let him every detail stabbed without drawing blood. But I stayed calm. Pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it sits beside you quietly, like an old friend. When dessert was finally brought out, my hands tightened around the edge of the table. The waiter approached their table. He placed the envelope in front of Sarah. Imran raised a brow. Sarah frowned, confused. She knew my handwriting. I saw her lips whisper, "A deal." And then everything began to collapse.
Sarah's fingers shook as she opened the envelope. She pulled out the first photo. Her face drained of color instantly. The next page screenshots of her late-night chats with Imran, the next timestamps, dates, small details she thought she hid. Her breath hitched, eyes widened, her chest rose and fell rapidly. Imran leaned closer, whispering, "What is that?" Her voice broke. "Oh my God." At that moment, I stood. Slow, controlled, deliberate. My chair scraped softly against the floor. The quietest announcement of war ever made. She saw me. Her world shattered. "A deal," low, she whispered, her voice trembling, already drowning in guilt. I walked toward them. No anger, no shouting, just calm truth. Imran straightened, face tightening. He wasn't brave enough to say anything. Sarah covered her mouth with her hand, tears gathering. "A deal," she said again, trembling. "This isn't, please, let me explain." I shook my head gently. "Don't. The truth is already on the table." Her breathing broke. She grabbed the edges of the envelope like it was burning her. People around us pretended not to watch, but they watched. Everyone watches when a lie collapses. I stood beside their table not as her husband, not as her victim, but as someone who had already walked past the breaking point days ago. "A deal, please," she whispered. Her mascara smudged, her voice cracking, her hands trembling. I looked at her not with hate, but with clarity. "I didn't come here to argue," I said softly. "I came here to return something." She blinked rapidly. "Return what?" "My trust," I said. "Since you didn't need it anymore." Her tears spilled instantly. Imran tried to speak. "Look, man," I raised a hand. "You don't get a line in this conversation." He went silent. Sarah shook her head desperately. "It's not what it looks like then. What is it?" I asked calmly. "Tell me, convince me." She opened her mouth. No words came out, only sobs. I continued, "All those nights you said you were tired. All those weekends you said you had work. All those excuses, and all you had to do was be honest." "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please. I messed up. I was confused. I didn't want to lose you." I exhaled sharply. A laugh. Not from humor, from tragedy. "You already lost me the moment you chose someone else." She covered her face. Her shoulders shook. The waiter hovered awkwardly nearby, unsure if he should clear the plates or run away. I placed my wedding ring on the table right beside the untouched dessert. Her eyes widened, turning red, raw, devastated. "No, please. Don't. A deal, please." But I was already turning away. There are moments in life where staying hurts more than leaving. This was one of them. I walked out of the restaurant into the cold night air. Sarah followed seconds later, stumbling in her heels, crying, calling my name. "A deal, please." She grabbed my arm. I looked at her one last time. Her makeup was ruined, her hands shaking, her breath uneven. "I love you," she cried. "Please don't leave." I closed my eyes. "I loved you too," I whispered. "But you didn't love me enough to stop." She dropped to her knees on the pavement. People stared. Imran stayed inside the restaurant because cowards always avoid the aftermath they help create. I gently removed her hands from my arm. "Go home, Sarah, no Edla, please." But I stepped into my car and closed the door. Her muffled sobs echoed even through the glass. Driving away, I didn't cry. Sometimes pain is too deep for tears. The house felt different when I returned. Quiet, still, heavy. I walked into our bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out a small suitcase. Just enough clothes for a few days. Just enough to begin the process of letting go. When Sarah arrived home, she rushed inside, still crying. "A deal, please, we can fix this, pleased. Don't leave." I zipped the suitcase. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "A deal, no." I looked at her with finality, not anger, not cruelty, just truth. "Sarah," I said softly. There's a difference between a mistake and a decision. She shook her head. I'll do anything, therapy begged. Please just don't go. I stepped past her. When you chose him, I said gently. You unchose us. I walked toward the door. She followed, sobbing, begging, apologizing, but the words didn't matter anymore. When I reached the doorway, I turned once more. For 6 years, you had all of me, I said. But you gave your loyalty to someone else, and I deserve to be with someone who chooses me without hesitation. Her knees buckled again. Her hands covered her mouth, her world falling apart in front of her, and I stepped outside, closing the chapter quietly, painfully, but necessarily.